go ahead and get started, everybody. Get your headsets on. We'll give a few minutes for everyone else here to get settled.
Can everyone hear us?
You guys can hear me okay? Great. Terrific. Well, thank you all for being here. I know there's a lot of different places you could be at this conference, and I really appreciate you all coming today to learn about Voicebase and specifically about voice of the customer and getting the true voice of the customer. This is our first time here at the Tableau conference, so we're somewhat new to this. And we've been listening and paying attention, and one of the themes we hear all the time, we heard it in the keynotes, and that is that data is really important, that you're all hungry for data, starved for data, and that you're looking to make change and to get impact out of that data so that you can move the needle of your business and improve your business, make it better. And that's why we're here as well. So what's so exciting about that for us is that we bring a new dimension to all of that data. We're going to bring you voice so that you can get true voice of the customer. Some of the most authentic and genuine data you can get is from what your customers are telling you every day about your business and about your competitors. So let's get started. As much as we're learning about what's going on here at the conference, we're also paying attention to the market. And what the market is telling us is that customer experience, and this may be something you're all aware of, but customer experience is the #1 thing that enterprises are looking for. Talk about making impact. That's how enterprises today want to make an impact, is with the customer experience. This study, according to Gartner, shows that it is the #1 ranked concern for the enterprise today, and it's also the #1 area where enterprises today are making investments to improve that business and move the needle of their business. This next slide says even more. It takes that a little bit further. It actually says that customer experience will take over price and features as the #1 driver for what customers are looking for in their buying decision. This is huge. This, talk about impact. This is really, really important. So what I want to talk about today is how you can take advantage of voice in Tableau to achieve what we just saw, to give a better customer experience and to create impact using the data generated from all of the voice. Now this is not new. Voice I think is well known to be really valuable, but it's also really hard to get. So why is there this gap? Why isn't voice in the data that you're using today in your Tableau dashboards? Why isn't voice there already today? It's not a coincidence that it's not there. It's because companies that serve the call center today, in most cases, companies like NICE and Verint in particular, these are legacy providers who have built a real solid wall. We call them the Iron Curtain vendors. They do a really good job, and if you're familiar with them, you know who I'm talking about. They do a really good job of making sure that no one has access to those call recordings in the enterprise except for NICE and Verint, because that gives them exclusivity on all of the analytics that can be derived from that content. Pretty good deal. And if you're in that position, maybe I'd be doing that too. But it's not really good for the enterprise who's starved for data, as we all know. So that's why you have this locked-in data that has been inaccessible for so long. Voicebase, we're a speech analytics company. We derive information out of those call recordings for sales, for service, for marketing. These calls where your customers are telling you 1,600 times more information than what you get out of text and chat and email. Customers love to speak freely about things they like, they don't like, they want, they need, they hate. So these legacy providers, they have their own visualizations. They don't want Tableau customers to get that data. What Tableau customers are left with is social media, okay? And it's ironic that social media today is voice of the customer. Does that sound funny to anybody, that voice of the customer is about chat? Okay, we're here to solve that. So what we do at Voicebase is we integrate into your call center platform to the extent we can, or they'll allow us to. And some vendors, by the way, play really nicely and they're easy to work with to extract the call recordings out of that platform, and others don't. In that case, we do some forking so that we still get the calls. And what allows that to happen One of the key features that allows us to fork calls and get access to this valuable data is a feature called PCI redaction, SSN redaction. Any PII that's in those calls, we redact automatically using our AI. So what we're left with is a clean recording that we can then transcribe and run our features on and extract that information, export it into your data lake, into your data warehouse. So now you have this new input into what you can do with all of your data. And we all know that your data becomes better when you get new data and more data to correlate more with it. And we make that much more valuable.
Great.
Now I'm going to turn it over to Mark. Mark is our VP of Products. My name is Jay Blazensky, by the way. I'm co-founder at Voicebase. Mark is VP of Analytics Products, and I'm going to let Mark take it from here.
Great, thanks Jay. So just a poll from the group. Who here is familiar with speech analytics and what it is and what it isn't? That's a pretty good group, great. So just to sort of exemplify what we're talking about here, we're taking audio files, typically call recordings from the contact center, and then transcribing it into text, something that we as like machines, let's say, can understand and kind of categorize and make sense of. So it's one thing to actually have a blob of unstructured text that a machine or your systems pulls in, but what speech analytics is all about is making sense of that data, classifying it, giving it features around attitudes and insights of what your customers want. So I like data and analytics for my business. I love Tableau and the Tableau dashboards and the customer experience, and I freaking hate Power BI. So, from this you can get a lot of insight. Certainly in the bottom you can see I love Tableau, Tableau sentiment positive, Tableau dashboards positive, Power BI negative. Analytic tools, emotions, customer experience, you can get metrics on just overall opinions. Something that we also want to introduce later in the presentation we're going to get into is this notion of predictive analytics and actually scoring likelihood to buy, likelihood to cancel. And so literally you'll see if we give us calls, we can score them on these probabilities using deep learning and recurrent neural nets. And we'll get into that in a second. So think of what we're doing here, unlike the black boxes that Jay was talking about, the nice invariants, but this isn't Voicebase is an open architecture. So think of this as 4 distinct layers in your data environment, where the bottom layer is the call recording, the actual underlying asset. We then pipe that to our platform where we can record, categorize, and then add metadata, if you will, to classify the information for ingestion. Send that through an API cloud service, to your data lake with your other omni-channel data so that you can get a 360 view, correlate it with other ERP, Salesforce information, and build these out to infinite configurations in Tableau. The core platform really has 7 distinct layers. Bottom layer is our call collector, where we ingest the call recording. We have an AI speech-to-text transcription. It's fast, it's efficient, highly accurate in multiple languages. We have a PCI redactor and PII redactor, which part of the problem we're seeing in the enterprise is that the contact center data has a lot of very sensitive information. You have credit cards, social security numbers, addresses, all kinds of things that you just do not want to lose control of. And so when, as marketers, we want to pull this in to make sense of it, it would be awesome if we could get the insight from what customers are telling us, but without all that sensitive information. So we do have PCI and PI redactors built into the platform, which strikes out all the text for numbers, so as far as social security numbers, email addresses, credit cards, and we're PCI level 1 certified, which is a real key distinction as you look to bring this into the enterprise. We have a custom vocabulary configurator, which you can tune our models as far as understanding your products, your brand, which are very distinct in how people talk about those. Every customer is different. You may have an obscure product name. With literally a configuration of entering your text of those product names, our system will start to understand that in the tonality. NLP, as far as extracting out topics, things like meaning on verbs tied to nouns, doing parsing with NLP, and then this AI predictive layer. So what we're seeing in calls, a number of our customers are going this direction, is that wouldn't it be awesome if I got, let's say, 1,000 phone calls, and I knew the outcome of those phone calls. And let's say there were people who definitely bought our product. And then I had a couple thousand phone calls of people who definitely didn't buy our product. And there's a host of different attributes. You can go through and manually scrub and try to identify these like features that maybe one said or didn't say as far as how does that correlate to an outcome of a sale or no sale. So with deep learning and recurrent neural nets, we've built a system that auto self-learns by just giving it these two distinct outcome of population of calls. You literally run it overnight, and then by the next morning, it'll give you a predictor with high confidence in scoring every outcome of a call as it's coming in thereafter. So if you're looking to determine, okay, likelihood to buy, likelihood to cancel, any type of outcome based from a call, this is like a perfect solution. And again, it all leverages the latest in deep learning and recurrent neural nets. It's fast, and it's something that literally you can turn around pretty much in real time. We have a number of retailers today that are deploying this in their sales organizations, and it's awesome. It's really terrific. The top layer is our model studio, where you can basically build out categories to your infinite configuration as far as taxonomies, how you want to look at your data, the features you want to extract from the text, and also configure and control the entire stack. So what do you get as the outcome as far as a data analyst using Tableau are all these features. Literally, there's like dozens of them. And then you can go off in a tree and then do subcategories. So top layer is the transcription, the core transcription of text with the audio file. Again, redacted if that's something that's important. The keywords, the topics, the custom vocabulary, core middle, all the metrics that we're pulling in the data. So sentiment, positive, negative, neutral on a scale of 0 to 1 with fractions. So really understanding how customers are talking about your products, overall sentiment of a call, is it improving, is it worsening throughout the call? So just understanding those trends are really important aspects of the data. Things like overtalk, are you interrupting? Terrific ways to really just understand the dynamicism, the energy of a call. The last part are certainly based on industry classifiers to make sense of your data. So things like customer feedback, website confusion, maybe why people are calling and there's information on the website you couldn't find, content. So all ways that you can really optimize your data. So these are the features that you get in the core JSON output. So let's go to some demos. Now, we're, as Jay said, new to the show. We wanted to sort of put together some reference points, some reference designs. Let me just jump into my browser to give you inspiration. So these are things that we actually have published in our Tableau public folder, where you can go in and pull down and actually play and manipulate. This is an example. What most customers want to understand is, like, okay, what's happening with overall brand health? How are customers talking about our brand, our product? And this is just showing longitudinal trend as far as looking at volume of calls per day, customer sentiment, positive, negative, and neutral, and that trend over time. And an overall score in the upper left, let's say, of an index, kind of like what you would do with a natural NLP or a net promoter score, a customer sat score to understand overall satisfaction. We're doing that with sentiment. We've also pulled in metadata from a CRM system that looks at outcomes of calls. This is an inbound call from a utility company at a sales desk. So you have people seeing web ads and then calling into a sales organization whether or not to buy the product. And actually, it's a utility type of product. So it's a subscription-based service. So a sale, did they visit the store to go sign up, no sale, etc. And then we actually, from the voice transcription, pull out the emotion. So as Jay said, people are talking about what they want, what they're frustrated with. They're having these conversations with your customer service department. So now we can pull these out in the form of analytics to help you as an analyst move the business. So now I can simply just look at what do my customers want, click on want, dashboard changes, everything filters. I can see the outcomes of those calls when people are looking for things, but let me just move over the mouse. You can see in this data population, student discount is the most sought after topic that customers are looking for. These are students calling up to subscribe for the service. I can also click on confusion. Everything filters, and you can see that internet speed is something they're typically calling up about. Again, speed, levels, confused on what level they purchased, et cetera, et cetera. Let me just jump back out. All these topics that you're seeing on the bottom right are not configured by you. These are out-of-the-box topics that are built into our platform. Again, you can extend these with what we call a VBQL, query language type SQL language to categorize and build your own taxonomy. That's in addition to what comes out of the box. Again, something like, oh wow, look at the sentiment trend over this period, what happened. So now I can drill in and see exactly what's driving that. You'll see confusion, annoyed, and these topics are what people are experiencing. So that's just high-level metrics. Now, being able to drill into a call, where I can click on something like an objection of price, and then let's see, people who did not close a sale, click on to drill into the underlying call, and then play it. So here's the transcription. Can you guys hear it? I can't. Barely. It's two-channel. I think the next person's louder. Okay.
The beauty here is it gives you the opportunity to drill down into the call that's driving the behavior you're seeing.
So this is the player. It's built in as an extension in Tableau. And so with this, you can see all of the topics and that we're pulling out of this transcription that, again, are all features that you can use for metadata. Again, this is all part of the JSON output that you get with our service. Another dashboard we wanted to put together that's looking at the marketing effectiveness of ads you're running online. So on the left side, you have all the different channels, Google, Facebook, search keywords, et cetera. And then people seeing the ads, the content, the marketing materials, the promotions, and then calling up and whether or not they got forwarded to just a support ticket, someone calling in that did not ultimately close, maybe a sale was made, maybe they got transferred to another department. Then we have another filter, again, using metadata, whether or not that's a prospect, new customer, or current customer, and then what the offer was that they were calling about. So here with Tableau, I'm able to simply filter by looking at the sales outcomes, showing that Facebook and certain search keywords were the primary channels that drove those outcomes. Filter by Facebook, see that Facebook, all new customers, and then more importantly, again, using the voice transcription, seeing how competitive mentions, in this case, another competitor called I Talk Loud, these are fictitious names, that people referenced having an unlimited plan or an LTE. In this case, actually, there was a number of outages that people were unsatisfied with, and they ultimately ended up switching, again, from Facebook. That's where they discovered the ad and ultimately bought the service. So a terrific way to really understand the effectiveness of your ads. Other examples we can certainly get into, and again, using all the possibilities of Tableau, are mapping. So if you have like locations, physical regions that we want to filter and slice the data and understand, where are sales being made? Again, all based on the text transcription, or maybe where we're seeing unsatisfied customers in the region, drilling into those storefront locations, seeing what markets, and then dispatching to the local manager. And so another area that, again, certainly our bread and butter coming from the contact center and sales forces is understanding performance of people. So the people that are talking, right? The left side has all of the agents. In these cases, this is the sales agents who are talking, and the outcome of their calls. So the darkness of these little dots is the volume, so the number of calls that fit into that bucket. In this case, let's say there's a dark bucket here, dark dot of no sale, so most of their calls were not sold. And the diameter of the circle is the duration of their calls. So it's pretty interesting, so we'll get into that in a second. Then we have objections, so what do people typically talk about that, hey, I have to talk to my wife, or I'm just shopping around, or the price is interesting, but maybe it's a little too high. I don't have time right now. So these are common objections that come up in the sales process. So we map those in the categories. and then all the other sort of mentions that are being bubbled up through our topic discovery. Let me just drill into someone named Kelly. It's interesting because Kelly, if you look closely, most of her calls are not sold, so no sales, and the diameter of her circles are large, meaning she's spending an inordinate amount of time on calls that ultimately never close, which is a problem. And you can see to the right, 20% of our calls have idle time or silence time, which means typically, we're talking right now, 20% of the time it's just dead air. So she's either going to her systems, maybe she's like, put me on hold. So certainly there's a productivity issue there. But what's interesting with her, the objection of price is what keeps on coming up that she can't overcome, right? Some people talk about price compared to other agents in the sales process. That's something that certainly she could be better coached up and trained to, boost her performance. So those are just 5 quick examples we wanted to show. Let me just jump back into this deck. Give it a second. So these are dashboard starters that we are publishing on our Tableau gallery, a public gallery. In the coming months, we're going to be introducing not just this voice of the customer suite, but other marketing packets for you to do campaign analysis using, again, voice as one of the data feeds to pull in, and then obviously correlating that to things like Google ad spend, Google Analytics, your other marketing channels. And then core contact center performance app, which really helps you better understand workflow performance, how your agents are engaging with your customers, the sales process, and also quality management use cases. So be sure to check out the gallery for, again, all these new starter kits that we'll be publishing. That's the high level of what we wanted to certainly share. Again, we're looking to equip you as the power user to give you the power of voice to make it your own and help solve the problems that you're looking to solve within your companies. And with that, wanted to open this up to questions. It's hard here we can't walk around with a mic, so if you can raise your hands with questions, Jay and I can just walk around, then we can sort of repeat it back to the audience and do a Q&A if it made sense.
Check.
Any questions?
Any questions? Yeah.
So how do you guys manage it when the recording is in single channel, so it's mono versus a stereo?
Great.
What approach do you guys take if you're not doing the recording to be able to distinguish between what is said by each party as you do the analysis?
Great question. So the question had to do with mono versus the stereo recording, and how does that impact our results, and how are we able to handle that? So we actually support both mono or dual channel. In fact, we support multi-channel. So in a conference call, for example, if you had many different parties, we actually process each channel separately for conference calls as well. So right now we've actually built most of our predictive models on mono, and that's actually one of the benefits of our categorization. We actually do a really good job on mono calls based on the pattern of who's speaking. But for the dual channel, you're going to get better results. It's that simple. I guess what I'm saying is that mono works, and we do a fine job with mono. But dual channel, if we get the agent and the client channel separately, we know exactly what each said. Not only that, by doing that, if there is overtalk on a mono channel, that overtalk is garbage. And if there's just noise on one line, it pollutes the whole recording, not just half. So we're familiar with these problems, and we do the best we can with mono, but we don't have any magic to clean up overtalk, for example, on a mono. We don't do machine-generated speaker ID, if that's what you're looking for. We are working on that, and in fact, I will share with you that WebEx, Cisco's WebEx product, has chosen Voicebase as its speech analytics product. They have an embedded Voicebase into WebEx. It's in beta right now, but in Q1 that'll be launched more broadly. So that's a good example of one of the achievements we've gotten as a company, because that's a real concern in a conference call, especially when you have people around the conference table with just one microphone in the middle. It's really difficult, and we were chosen for that use case. Not only that, Cisco vetted Voicebase very carefully on its info security, and they put out a press statement saying that Voicebase is a trusted processor of Cisco's customers' most sensitive data. and you heard about our PCI Level 1 certification. We also do encryption at rest, encryption in transit, and we do client-side encryption as well. So we do really well with financial institutions. But back to mono, we struggle with mono like everyone else. We do the best we can. But we are working on machine-generated speaker ID. Hopefully this works.
I work for Wells Fargo call center doing call center analytics. I wonder if you guys get in touch with anybody in the speech analytics team
At Wells
the
Fargo? Yes, we have, actually, out of San Francisco. It's early. They're one of those nice customers that has invested heavily in that nice platform, and we are looking to augment that, and then over time, hopefully come back and circle around and replace that at some point in time. And that's really part of our strategy, is to come in alongside of a nice type platform for someone like Wells Fargo or a large bank, a large insurance company. So we have a strategy designed specifically to address that, and we are in touch with Wells Fargo. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you guys were starting to show some of the different visualizations that you're creating. Is the vision for the company to expand on that, or is the focused on the underlying data for BI teams to consume? Kind of where are you taking the company? Where do you see the focus, the main area of focus?
Yeah, great question.
I feel like you were in our staff meetings. I mean, that's deep. That's what keeps me up at night. And people always ask me, what keeps you up at night? That's the question. Do we stay kind of an API company, or do we branch out and build apps? We are not building purpose-built apps today. We want to be an open platform. We consider ourselves speech analytics for the data-centric enterprise. And to the extent they need a little push with some starter kits and some pre-built Tableau visualizations, we'll do that. We're going to see what happens next. I think that the market will tell us what they need for us to do. We have had interest around agent QM, because that is a real hot spot in the call center space. We have some other partners who build those apps today. So we sell through third parties, through app builders, our partners, who build, for example, we won a very big deal with CenturyLink, which was a really important deal for us. I think they have 26,000 agents. And we did that with an app partner called CRX that built a customer journey application. And we power that application. That's a big part of our business. So we're sensitive to making sure that we still enable those developers and those thinkers. Great question. Any other questions? Great, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, everyone. Hey.
Do you guys happen to work with any debt collection agencies?
Let me just.
How you doing?
Jay.
Jonathan. Great.
The thing that jumped out to me was the voice of the customer, kind of rated number one projected. I was trying to get the reference from Gartner.
I can send you the slide. Give me your card, I'll send it to you.
Really appreciate that. Which city where y'all based?
We're about in Silicon Valley. We're about 8 years old. We've raised a substantial amount of money, and company's growing fast. I will send you the information on that. I've got some other stuff too you might be interested in, all around customer experience. Our marketing team has some great stats on that.
I am very interested in it because